Ellie and I had been married for 6 years, and our careful planning was finally coming to fruition. From the outset of our marriage, we diligently saved for a down payment on a home and envisioned filling it with children. As a cybersecurity consultant, I had the flexibility to work remotely, freeing me from the need for physical office space. Our marriage, to anyone inquiring, seemed like the epitome of love and commitment. We shared everything, from secrets to intimacy, and our bond was unbreakable. With our stable financial situation and shared goals for a family, I was convinced that our future was secure. Observing other couples struggle and divorce only reinforced our belief that our relationship was on a different level. It was a mindset I wholeheartedly embraced. However, everything changed with the arrival of Richard Jones, a new vice president at Ellie's company. His demeanor, characterized by arrogance and a need for power, seemed to have a negative impact on Ellie. She became distant, stressed, and irritable, citing work pressure as the cause. Despite my efforts to be supportive and understanding, tensions continued to rise at home. Ellie confided in me about her struggles with her new boss and her desire for a transfer within the company. She assured me that the transfer was likely due to her positive reputation and experience with company software. However, weeks passed, and the promised transfer never materialized. Our relationship suffered as Ellie became increasingly distant, treating me more like a roommate than a spouse. Despite her assurances that things would improve, our intimacy waned, and communication became strained. Then, one Friday night, Ellie dropped the bombshell that she would be traveling to the corporate office in California for 2 nights with her manager, Richard Jones, in hopes of securing the long-awaited transfer. At the time, I was unaware of the true source of Ellie's stress, which stemmed from Richard's relentless pressure for sexual favors. Ellie, a stunning 28-year-old with a slender figure and captivating features, had never given me cause for concern until the past 3 months. It later came to light that when Richard's advances were rejected, he resorted to manipulation, playing on her vulnerabilities and making false promises about her future with the company. This created immense strain for Ellie, yet she chose to keep the harassment hidden, both from me and from HR, which still puzzles me. When Richard's tactics failed, he resorted to charm and manipulation, gradually wearing down Ellie's resistance with flattering remarks and promises of career advancement. Despite her initial refusal, he managed to plant seeds of doubt in her mind, leading her to consider a momentary lapse in judgment for the sake of her career. The mounting stress, combined with the impending betrayal, seemed to transform Ellie into a different person. Instead of facing the guilt head-on, she projected her inner turmoil onto me, painting me as the villain to justify her actions and alleviate her guilt. Our intimacy had dwindled over the past 2 weeks, with Ellie rebuffing my attempts to reconnect. Though I made it clear that our relationship was at a breaking point, she assured me that things would improve once her work issues were resolved. Desperate to salvage our marriage, I agreed to give her until after her trip to reassess our situation. As our 7th anniversary approached, I made every effort to reignite the spark between us, hoping to mend our fractured relationship before her departure. However, my attempts were met with indifference, leaving me disheartened and uncertain about our future. On the day of her trip, I returned home early, eager to surprise her with a token of my affection. Yet, upon entering our empty house and discovering her packed luggage, I realized she had already left. My attempt to reach out to her was met with curt responses, further deepening my sense of alienation and confusion. Feeling shocked and hurt by Ellie's abrupt dismissal on the phone, I ended the call without our usual expressions of affection. It was a departure from our usual routine, and I couldn't help but wonder if she even noticed. Sitting on the bed beside her packed suitcase, I grappled with a mix of hurt and anger, trying to make sense of her behavior. Her treatment of me was completely unacceptable, and my frustration simmered as I sat there, staring at my phone. Deciding I couldn't wait for her return, I resolved to leave the house. As I stood up, a purple item caught my attention in her open suitcase. Though I'd never snooped on my wife before, something compelled me to investigate further. I reached for the plastic bag containing the purple item and discovered an unopened package containing a sheer, sexy baby doll nightgown, along with a matching bra, thong panties, nylons, and a garter belt. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. She hadn't worn lingerie for me in years, and it was clear she had packed these items intentionally for someone else. My heart sank as I continued to search the suitcase and found a box of condoms tucked away in a side pouch, still in its CVS bag. Suddenly, everything fell into place. Her distant demeanor, the lack of intimacy between us, it all made sense since she started traveling with her boss 3 months ago. I was holding evidence of her affair, packed expressly for a rendezvous with another man, most likely Richard. In that moment, I knew I couldn't continue to be a part of her deceitful game. Heading downstairs to my office, I penned a brief note through trembling hands. With a mixture of anger and sadness, I wrote, "Ellie, I hope he enjoys your lingerie. It's painfully clear why you've changed recently. You no longer want me, and I won't be part of your deceit. By the time you return, I'll be gone. I never would have married you if I'd known you were unfaithful. Thankfully, we haven't started a family. Perhaps Richard can fulfill that role for you. David." Taking the stapler from my desk, I carefully affixed the note to her lingerie before neatly repacking everything in her suitcase. Ensuring there were no signs of my presence, I left the house and sought solace in a local restaurant, my mind reeling from the revelations. Meanwhile, Ellie was grappling with her own turmoil over lunch with her sister, Jenny, needing to unburden herself before her world completely unraveled. Jenny's disbelief and concern were palpable as she looked at me, clearly taken aback by my decision. "Why would you risk your marriage for this guy?" she asked incredulously. "You've told me countless times how awful he's been to you, harassing you at work. Why not quit or file a harassment case with HR?" "Jenny, it's not that simple," I explained, feeling a mix of guilt and uncertainty. "Richard's going through a rough time with his divorce, and he's been nicer lately. He asked me to be with him just once and promised it would help my career. I don't know why, but I agreed. It's just a one-time thing, and then everything will go back to normal. So, you're willing to cheat on David, the man you've loved for years, for a chance at a promotion? You realize he's using you, right?" Jenny's words hit me like a slap in the face, but I pushed aside the guilt, convinced I was doing the right thing. "No, it's not like that," I insisted, though doubt gnawed at me. "I feel sorry for Richard, and I know this will help him. David will never find out, and we'll move past it when I get back. Hold on, David's calling, let me take this." I answered the call, my tone brusque and dismissive, unaware of the impact it had on Jenny. As I hung up, I noticed her disapproving gaze, and her words cut through my justifications like a knife. "Ellie, do you realize how you spoke to David just now? That was incredibly rude, even for you. What's going on?" Confusion and guilt washed over me as Jenny pointed out my behavior. I didn't realize," I stammered, the weight of my actions sinking in. "I need to apologize to him." Jenny's concern only grew as she voiced her worries about my marriage and my behavior. "It seems like this affair is clouding your judgment," she observed gently. "You've been taking your frustrations out on David, and it's not fair to him. You need to address these issues before it's too late." Her words hit home, and I realized the gravity of my actions. "You're right," I admitted, a knot forming in my stomach. "I've been treating David terribly, and it's not fair to him. I need to make things right." With newfound determination, I resolved to call David and apologize, determined to salvage what was left of our marriage before it was too late. "Do you want privacy?" Jenny asked, concern evident in her voice. "No, stay here." "It's ringing." "Damn it, he's not answering," Ellie replied, frustration creeping into her tone. "Maybe he's busy," Jenny suggested, trying to offer some reassurance. "He always answers my calls." "I'm calling again, hopefully he'll answer," Ellie persisted, her worry growing. "He's not answering?" "Ellie, send him a text," Jenny advised, sensing Ellie's mounting anxiety. "Damn it, he's pissed, and now I don't blame him. And I need to leave in less than 2 hours," Ellie lamented, feeling the weight of the situation bearing down on her. "Well, sis, you better apologize and get your shit together. I don't think what you have planned with Richard is a good idea, and you need to stop this nonsense before you screw everything up. You guys have been so good together, and you're about to start a family. Think about it, Ellie," Jenny urged, her concern for her sister palpable. "I know, you're right, but I'm not sure I can stop it now." It's just once, and my home life and work life will be good again. Richard's been having so much trouble with his divorce, and he's really depressed. He promised it would just be once, and it would help him because I remind him so much of his wife, Ellie explained, her voice wavering with uncertainty. You know he's playing you, don't you? Ellie, you can't be that blind, Jenny countered, her frustration evident. No, I can tell. Deep down he's a sweet guy, and his wife is trying to get full custody of his kids and destroy him with alimony. When he opened up to me, I felt his pain, and we had a connection. I feel like I need to do this, just this once after all the time we've spent together, Ellie defended, her voice tinged with desperation. Have you talked to him about your own marriage or how David treats you? Jenny pressed, her concern deepening. Looking down at her hands, Ellie hesitated before admitting, I may have said something about David complaining and our lack of sex. Ellie, you're an idiot, and you better pray that David never finds out you've been sharing yours and David's intimate relationship with another man. I have to tell you, Ellie, I think you've already gone too far, and if David finds out about this, your marriage is definitely in trouble. Don't you see how screwed up this is, and how you're putting everything in jeopardy? Jenny admonished, her frustration palpable. Ellie's resolve wavered, but she insisted, look, I get your point, and you're right, which is why it's only going to happen this one time. I realize now how I've been treating David, and when I get back from this trip, I will make it up to him. He'll never know, and it will never happen again. I will never talk about this again, because it will never exist in my mind. It will be forgotten. You really are delusional. You're about to have sex with another man, and you believe once that happens, you're going to forget about it. I'm telling you, it will change you. It will change how you think of your husband. No good can come from this. Please rethink this, Jenny implored, her voice tinged with sadness. Jenny, thanks for your concern, but I'm a grown woman and can handle this. I mean, it's just sex, and it's only one time. David will never know, and as they say, no harm, no foul, Ellie reassured, though doubt gnawed at her. Well, I hope you know what you're doing, but I want you to remember what I'm saying. You're making a big mistake. Please think about it before you do something you can never take back. You will forever be a cheating wife, and I hope you can live with that, Jenny warned, her voice heavy with concern. Don't worry, I'll handle this, and in 2 weeks you'll see a happy David, and we'll be working on starting our family, Ellie insisted, though uncertainty clouded her thoughts. I'm sad, and I feel terrible about this, because I know this is not going to turn out well, and as your sister, I don't want you to do this. Please cancel your trip, quit your job, and apologize to David for your recent behavior. David is also my friend, and if he ever finds out I knew about this, he'll never speak to me again, Jenny pleaded, her voice tinged with desperation. Thanks, Jenny, I love you and I appreciate your concern. I'll think about what you've said, but I still need to go on this trip. I'll talk to David and apologize for my bad behavior before I leave this afternoon, Ellie promised, though doubt lingered in her heart. These emotions were foreign and unwelcome. Seated in the booth of our local restaurant, I found myself reflecting on the past few months, witnessing my marriage transition from a state of joy to utter despair. I had to discreetly dab at my eyes to conceal the vulnerability and pain that threatened to surface. Initially consumed by anger upon sitting down, my emotions soon shifted to a profound sense of sorrow and betrayal as I grappled with the magnitude of my loss. The woman I cherished and the marriage I held dear now felt like distant memories. As I contemplated my predicament, feelings of humiliation and betrayal began to overshadow my initial grief. How could she betray our marriage in this way? What had I done to drive her to become an unfaithful wife? Forgiveness seemed out of reach. I could never be with a woman who desired another man. My pride wouldn't allow it. While I knew some friends might advocate for forgiveness, that was a path I refused to entertain. My anger surged anew when Ellie's number flashed on my phone screen. I had no intention of entertaining her calls. The time for discussion had passed. I had moved on. The loving husband she once knew had transformed into someone else. Meanwhile, during Ellie's flight with Richard, he pulled out all the stops to impress her, arranging first-class seats and offering reassurance when he noticed her distress over her husband's silence. Playing the part of the sympathetic confidant, he managed to allay her concerns and coax her into relaxing with a drink. Ellie, calm down. I'm sure there's a simple explanation for his silence. He'll call back, you'll see. And rest assured, nothing has changed between us. After our meetings, take some time off to reconnect with your husband. You're such a caring wife, unlike my own, he insinuated, his words dripping with manipulation. Moved by his apparent vulnerability, Ellie succumbed to his soothing words, taking solace in comforting him. Unbeknownst to her, Richard saw this as an opportunity to finally consummate their illicit affair, reveling in the prospect of sending her back to her husband marked by his betrayal. For Richard, it was all a game, a perverse form of conquest that fueled his sense of power and control. Manipulating women like Ellie and reveling in their husband's unwitting humiliation was his twisted addiction, one that made him a dangerous predator lurking beneath a veneer of charm and sophistication. Upon arriving at the hotel, they approached the registration desk hand in hand. Ellie's surprise was evident when she realized there was only one room booked for their stay, meaning she would be spending the entire trip with Richard. As they walked away from the counter, Ellie voiced her concern, "I don't have a room." "Ellie, we discussed this. You and I will be together for this trip and no more. Let's just enjoy this one experience as we agreed," reassured Richard. "I thought you said it would only be once, Richard." "I'm not sure about this," Ellie replied uncertainly. "Relax, Ellie, everything will be fine. It's one trip, not one time. Until we return home, you're my companion. Just this once. Pretend you're my wife, and I promise to treat you like the princess you deserve to be. No one will know, and it will be our secret forever." Upon entering the room, Ellie felt a surge of guilt seeing the single king-size bed. It dawned on her that for the first time since her marriage, she would be sleeping with another man. Mixed feelings overwhelmed her, alternating between excitement and guilt, prompting her to step out onto the balcony for some fresh air. Richard, understanding her turmoil, silently stowed their bags and joined her on the balcony overlooking the Pacific Ocean. "Isn't this relaxing? I chose this room knowing you'd appreciate the ocean view," remarked Richard. She nodded, a tear forming in her eye. "Yes, it's beautiful." Richard gently lifted Ellie's chin, meeting her gaze, and tenderly kissed her lips. After a moment, Ellie reciprocated, and their kiss deepened into a passionate embrace. Breaking away, Ellie smiled nervously, realizing the gravity of her actions. Richard, sensing progress, refrained from pushing further, content with the anticipation of the night to come. "That was lovely, Ellie. We have dinner reservations soon, and I'll head to the gym for a quick workout." "I'll be back in time for us to get ready," announced Richard as he gathered his gym clothes and left the room. Alone, Ellie felt the need to reach out to David and apologize for her recent behavior. Despite her longing for reassurance, his unanswered calls left her feeling anxious. Sending a text, she expressed her remorse and affection, hoping to mend the rift between them. With a heavy sigh, she entered the steaming shower, meticulously grooming herself, from shaving her legs to tending to her hair. Exiting the shower, she admired her reflection in the mirror, eager to don the new outfit she had purchased. Devoting the next half hour to perfecting her makeup and hair, she felt a sense of satisfaction with her dramatic evening look, anticipating how her husband would admire her upon her return. Meanwhile, Richard continued his workout routine as Ellie retrieved her garment bag, extracting the daring black cocktail dress she had reserved for the occasion. The neckline accentuated her curves, and she made the bold decision to forego a bra for the evening, embracing the allure of the ensemble. Completing her attire with new high heels, she marveled at her reflection in the mirror, envisioning the pleasure her husband would derive from seeing her in the outfit. As she prepared for the evening, laying out her lingerie and slipping into the dress, she noticed an anomaly, a piece of paper stapled to the lingerie bag. Curiosity piqued, she examined the contents and was overcome with shock and dread upon reading the handwritten note. Collapsing to her knees in anguish, tears streamed down her face as the gravity of her actions and the betrayal she had committed weighed heavily on her. In that moment, her world shattered, and she grappled with an overwhelming sense of hurt and remorse, her thoughts. Now gripped by panic, she dialed David's phone, leaving a trembling voicemail. "David, I received your note, and darling, nothing happened. I never went through with anything. Please forgive me. It was a foolish mistake, and I love you. Please call me and talk to me. I need to speak with you, baby. Trust me, nothing happened. Please call me. As David's silence persisted, she inundated him with lengthy text messages, her distress evident as she rocked back and forth in the chair beside the bed. Richard's entrance into the room signaled a disruption to his plans, sensing the impending derailment. What's the matter, darling? Don't call me that. I'm not your darling, and because of you, I may have ruined my marriage to the man I love. You pushed me into this situation, and now he's left me. Ellie, calm down. What are you talking about? Richard spotted the note on the bed, a smirk forming on his lips as he read it, relishing the satisfaction of stirring up marital turmoil. To him, toying with husbands' minds was a perverse pleasure, stemming from his own twisted upbringing and the scars left by his father's infidelity. In his twisted logic, whether he consummated the affair or not was inconsequential. The chaos wrought upon the husband's psyche was his true goal. Planning to exploit Ellie's vulnerability, he prepared his manipulative spiel, confident in his ability to sway her. However, Ellie was done playing his game. Discarding her dress and heels, she stood before him, ignoring his advances. Richard's anticipation turned to frustration as Ellie remained resolute in her rejection. You're delusional if you think I'll ever touch you again. I need to fix the mess you've caused in my marriage. Infuriated, Richard lashed out, shifting blame onto Ellie and accusing her of willingly participating. Their exchange devolved into a heated confrontation, with accusations and insults hurled between them, each blaming the other for the turmoil unleashed upon Ellie's marriage. Ellie was taken aback by his outburst, feeling the weight of his accusations. Just admit it and stop blaming me for wanting to cheat on the man you say you love. You'll never convince me that you loved him and so easily agreed to cheat on him. You're just like all the other sluts. You want some fun on the side, as long as you don't get caught. Once you get caught, you blame the man who seduced you. Well, princess, you never would have let me seduce you, take you on a trip across the country, and agree to a night of sex with me if you really loved your husband. You didn't even object to staying in the same room and sleeping with me. Yeah, you must really love your husband. I can't imagine what you would do if you didn't love the poor sap. Trust me, he's lucky to find out now that you're a cheating wife and can't be trusted before you start having children. His words struck Ellie to her core. She realized the truth in what he said. She had made her own choices and couldn't blame him for everything. Even her sister had warned her, but she had chosen to leave her husband and be with Richard. The pain of realizing Richard's accuracy stung almost as much as the hurt she inflicted on her husband. Consumed by remorse and guilt, she hastily packed her bags and headed to the lobby, desperate to return home and reassure David of her love and fidelity. After a fruitless 20-minute call, she learned there were no available seats on any evening flights back home. Stranded in San Diego until morning, she reluctantly made arrangements for a flight back the following day. As she realized she had no hotel room, the concierge empathized with her distress. Offering assistance, she arranged a room and requested another credit card. However, Ellie's card was declined, sending her into a panic. With no other options, she reluctantly dialed her sister. Hello? Hi, Jenny. Sorry to bother you. That's okay, sis. What's wrong? Ellie couldn't hold back her tears as she poured her heart out to Jenny. I should have listened to you, but I didn't. David found out about my trip and left me a note saying he's gone. I'm stuck out here and trying to get home. I'm not going to say I told you so. That would be rude. How can I help? Well, David isn't answering my calls or text messages, so he can't help me. I guess he canceled our credit cards, and I can't get a room. Could you give them your credit card for the hotel room, and I'll pay you when I get back? Damn it, Ellie, you're supposed to be the smart sister, but recently you definitely have not been very bright. Of course I'll help you. She called her sister back an hour later. Jenny, thanks for helping your idiot sister. I was able to get a room for the night. I'll catch the morning flight back home. Do you think he'll forgive me? Not sure, sis. Have you heard from him? No, but I left him several messages and told him nothing happened. Well, good luck. Just the fact that he knew what you were going to do, and you went on the trip isn't a good sign. Keep trying to reach him and beg him to forgive you if you want him back. David's nightmare. I didn't know if she went through with having sex with Richard or not, but she was obviously going to do it, and that was enough for me. She said she loved me, but went off with another guy, with plans of taking him to bed. I was not about to start a family with a woman like that, or stay married to her. I turned my phone off, moved out of the apartment the next day, and drove to Austin, Texas, where I had several jobs lined up. On Facebook, I changed my status to single and posted a photo of the cheating couple that I created on AI, using their online photos of them walking together and holding hands, and wrote, "Ellie's new love, Richard Jones." She's tossed me away, and I've filed for divorce and consider our marriage over. When I checked an hour later, there were dozens of comments from friends who were shocked by my revelation. A few of the women posted their sadness for my loss and suggested I call them if I wanted someone to talk to. Funny, but for the first time in months I had a feeling of being wanted and realized my life wasn't over because of a cheating spouse. From some research, I discovered that Richard was not in the middle of a divorce and loved his wife and children. He just loved preying on unsuspecting women a little more. He really enjoyed defiling the wife and turning her husband into a cuckold. It gave him a feeling of power after taking the wife and knowing the husband was going to be licking the pussies he had just fucked. That was the thrill for this egomaniac. The need for power over these women and their husbands was his addiction. Ellie was stunned into reality when she learned how Richard had lied to her about everything. She made sure his wife knew about their affair and how he chased all the women at work. There was going to be some turmoil in Richard's life in the near future. Divorce court. Mr. Wilkes, where is your client? David was supposed to attend court on the day of the divorce trial. The judge was livid when he didn't show up and asked his attorney where he was. The attorney said he didn't know, but was sure he would be here shortly. She ordered a 15-minute recess and said if he's not here she'd hold him in contempt. Joshua Wilkes, his attorney, called David's cell phone and soon realized that David had no intention of attending the mandatory court session. He told his attorney he was stuck in traffic. When the judge came back, Joshua stood up and spoke to the judge. "Your Honor, my client is stuck in traffic and trying desperately to get here." "Well, that's unfortunate. I have other cases today. Your client is in contempt, and I'm setting this fine at $1,000. I reviewed the file, and I am demanding 3 counseling sessions before the next court date in 60 days. Tell your client that if he doesn't attend the counseling or doesn't show up for court, I'll give him 30 days in jail and another fine. Do you understand my decision today?" "Yes, Your Honor." Joshua gave his client an earful and told him he had better follow the judge's order. After balking at the mandatory counseling, he agreed and said he would if this would finalize the divorce. Counseling. This was the first time she had seen David since her foolish decision to be with Richard. She ran to him with outstretched arms, only to be pushed away and ignored. After regaining composure from the crying fit that ensued, the counselor began the session. Ellie started, expressing her love for David and her profound regret. She explained that she never engaged in any sexual activity and rushed back home as soon as she realized her mistake. Tears flowed as she begged for his forgiveness. When David spoke, he emphasized the importance of honesty in the sessions. "Doctor, just to be clear, you expect complete honesty from both of us if these sessions are to have any value, correct?" "Yes, David, you both agreed to complete honesty, and this is a no-fault session. It's important that both of you speak freely and honestly." "Thank you, Doctor." Turning to Ellie, David addressed her directly, feeling the pain resurface. "This is difficult for me, Ellie, and I hope you'll be honest. You say you didn't have sex with Richard, nothing happened, and I should understand and forgive your actions. Do I have that right?" Tears welled up in Ellie's eyes as she nodded. "Yes, David, nothing happened, and once I read your note, I realized what I was doing and ran home to you. Okay, I understand, but I know you, Ellie, and you're not the type of woman to just be with another man. I mean, you've never been promiscuous. Would you agree?" "Of course not. I'm not promiscuous, and you know that," Ellie said, reaching out to David. He didn't take her hand, leaving it hanging until she withdrew it. I know you're not, Ellie, but I also know that you wouldn't be with another man without some connection or feelings for him. Since I know you're not promiscuous, I assume you had feelings for Richard, am I correct? Feeling uncomfortable, Ellie admitted quietly, well, yes, but I don't love him. I've only ever loved you. Yes, I loved you too, Ellie. But that's the issue I'm struggling with. Tell me, did you spend private time with him, like lunches or drinks after work? We work together, so yes. Okay, that makes sense. Truthfully, did you ever walk hand in hand with him? Unable to meet his gaze, Ellie whispered, yes. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Did you hold hands? Yes, but I didn't love him. You've already said that. Tell me, did you ever share a passionate kiss? Just once, I swear. David couldn't explain the surge of emotions, but all his pain, anger, hurt, and humiliation found release in tears. Her confession triggered a torrent of emotions, staining his shirt and lap. David, known for his stoicism, shedding tears was a shock to Ellie. As she witnessed his vulnerability, David composed himself to ask another question. Ellie, one last question. If I hadn't sent that note with the lingerie intended for your lover, would you have slept with him that night? Reluctant to answer, Ellie nervously observed his tears. The doctor intervened, urging honesty in the safe space. David, it's crucial to address this openly. Please answer. David, I love you, and I'd never intentionally hurt you. But if you hadn't intervened with that note, I would have made a terrible mistake. You saved me, and I'm grateful. We need to stay together, baby. Through tears, David addressed the doctor, articulating his decision. Her intent speaks volumes. Knowing she was willing to be with someone else undermines our marriage's foundation. I can't live with that doubt. Over the next weeks, David fulfilled counseling requirements. Months later, the divorce finalized amid pleas for reconciliation. Disregarding pressure to forgive her, David severed ties and pursued contract jobs across the country. Despite Ellie's continued apologies, he cut contact, hoping she'd learn from the experience. David's revenge on Richard. Almost a year later, David, now detached from his past life, enacted his revenge plan. He remotely accessed Ellie's PC, capitalizing on her habit of leaving the VPN connected after work. Before leaving town, I exploited the lax security on Ellie's laptop, remotely accessing her system still linked to the company's internet via VPN. Thanks to lax practices by the help desk, it was a breeze. Though I make an honest living this way, I shouldn't grumble. But I digress. Next, I delved into her email and crafted a scripted message to Richard with an embedded rootkit link he'd inevitably open. The email appeared to come from Ellie, innocuously asking him to view some content. Predictably, the predator took the bait, granting me access to the company's inner sanctum. I meticulously covered my tracks, ensuring no trace was left behind. After a week's wait, I commenced my scheme. Utilizing VPNs and multiple remote servers in 8 countries, I infiltrated Richard's company server, pilfering sensitive data ranging from financial records to engineering designs. The patents alone were worth a fortune. Seeking amusement, I signed Richard up for various porn sites using his work computer. With access to his life through his PC, I utilized his credit card and bank information. It was simple to enroll him and exploit his company PC unbeknownst to him. I set up a program to divert any messages from those sites to a hidden file only I could access. In that covert file, I downloaded company diagrams and confidential engineering papers, launching my Burn Richard campaign. Over the next month, using his company email, I dispatched incriminating documents to their top competitors, insinuating financial improprieties. Naive about digital forensics, Richard assumed deleting emails erased all evidence. But under investigation, the truth would surface easily. Then, from his PC, I began sending child pornography to sites monitored by the FBI. Over a week, I flooded these sites with over 100 images, sure to grab the FBI's attention. Simultaneously, I paid an associate to plant a USB drive filled with incriminating material in Richard's apartment. Within 2 days, they succeeded, seamlessly integrating it into my grand plan. Throughout the entire operation, I took meticulous precautions, utilizing VPNs, remote servers, and my expertise in cybersecurity to ensure my anonymity. 10 days later, the scene unfolded dramatically as a team of 6 FBI agents stormed Richard's office while he was in a meeting with the company president. Their entrance, guns drawn, and shouts of "FBI, nobody move," sent shockwaves through the office. Frozen in fear, the staff watched in silence as the agents demanded access to the company servers. Despite objections from the president, the FBI seized the servers and all data, bringing the company to a grinding halt. Competitors swooped in, capitalizing on the chaos, and Richard, with my assistance, became the architect of his own downfall, resulting in his termination and subsequent lawsuit. Richard's federal trial garnered widespread attention, tarnishing the company's reputation and branding him a national disgrace. Convicted on numerous charges, including possession of child pornography and company espionage, he was sentenced to 25 years in prison. His family deserted him, and his life crumbled as a consequence of his misguided actions. As collateral damage, Ellie found herself embroiled in the scandal after her affair with Richard came to light. Her personal information was plastered across national news sites, leading to public humiliation and job loss. Left divorced and despondent, her future prospects dimmed considerably. Some may deem this revenge excessive, but considering the devastation Richard wrought upon my marriage and the lives he ruined, it was justified. This tale may seem fantastical, but such scenarios do occur, serving as a cautionary reminder to those tempted to stray or meddle in the lives of others. Beware, for not every wronged individual will settle for anything less than retribution. So, to all potential predators and unfaithful spouses, take heed, you've been warned. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel not to miss new videos.